Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you for also the exaggerated introduction. I'm a little embarrassed, but please allow me to begin. We just heard a presentation by President Zarati, and I think he specified the concept of AI sharing. So in my presentation, I would like to talk a little bit more about UCAI to contribute to your understanding. This introduces members of the UCAI Research Institute. In August 2020, we began our research. So we've been doing research for about 2.5 years now. When we say user-centric, what does that mean? That's where I would like to begin. If you search this word, you find a lot of user-centric design as a search result. User-centric design would be something that is on the opposite end of product-centric or business-centric design. So it would probably refer to design that is more user-friendly. So we hear a lot of the user-centric concept in design. Actually, I did some research in user-centric payment. And the UCAI that I would like to talk about today actually stems from user-centric payment. In 2006, I published 2 papers. And in those papers, we talked about the payment service. When you go to a store, you give your credit card to the merchant, and your financial information, your payment information goes to the merchant. But if you actually think about it, the person who's paying the money is yourself. So it would make better sense if the merchant gives his account information to the payer, but it's actually the other way around. So in 2006, we published a paper where we imagined the development of mobile phones. At that time, we didn't have smartphones yet. So we thought if we have a more powerful mobile phone, then we would have a mobile computer and we will be able to access data more quickly. So the merchant would have to give the payer his financial information and account information. And President Park's UB Pay is basically the same as the idea that we proposed in our paper. So Harix Infotech introduced a new business model of the UB Pay platform, and we published our paper. So that's where our relationship began. And so these are the excerpts from our papers. And then we found Harix Infotech that was developing a similar model. So it's not the payer's information going to the merchant, it's the other way around, the merchant's information going to the payer. That was the idea of user-centric model in payment. There are many people who are concerned with AI. So human-centered AI, human-compatible AI are mentioned here. So Stanford or UC Berkeley have these centers. But the word user-centric could be rather ambiguous, and therefore we need to be more specific. And I think user-centric could be a specific alternative. But user does not necessarily refer to individuals. Businesses can also become users, depending on the context. MSBE stands for micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. And these become users on platforms. But if you think about the existing big tech platforms, the small and business-sized enterprises are not allowed touch points with the customers. And the authority is basically concentrated around the platform provider. And therefore, big tech platforms are developing AI to improve these touch points between the merchants and the customers. And this could actually lead to an AI divide. In order to solve the social problem, we should promote UCAI. I would like to now talk about the 3 core concepts under UCAI. Number 1 is to minimize the use of user data for developing AI. Currently, the AI technology of many big tech companies are quite greedy in terms of user data. Users are not rewarded, and merchants and SMEs are not rewarded for providing their data. And so that's something that should be overcome. So we can even pursue a concept of zero user information, which means we should be able to develop AI with zero user information. That could be sort of an extreme end of the spectrum. And the second concept is user data or organizational data. If that is centralized for development of AI, that could be problematic. As we heard in the previous presentations as well, a lot of the banks and national governments are very afraid and very wary of having their data leave their jurisdiction. It's also probably legally not possible. So when we develop AI, we should not have centralized data because that's not possible, that's not realistic, and that's also not desirable. So at our forum, we have a concept of AI sharing as an alternative. And the third concept is maybe a more future-oriented vision, which is the AI algorithm should fulfill the user's objectives. But most of the algorithms on existing platforms don't work this way. If you look at Kakao Taxi, for example, last winter, if you remember hailing a cab, you would probably have had a lot of difficulties. And some people actually had to stay in a hotel overnight because they could not call a cab, even if there are many cabs on the road. So the existing algorithm is designed to maximize the profits of the taxi drivers. That is the reason. Uber is designed differently. Uber matches the closest driver to the customer automatically, and therefore the customer's waiting time is minimized. So user-centric AI should have an algorithm that's customer or user-oriented. And should the government regulate Kakao Taxi to also adopt a user-centric algorithm? Well, that may not be possible, but we should pursue an algorithm that is more user-centric. And now let's talk a little bit about AI sharing. If you look at the diagram on the left, we have the AI sharing platform, and we basically are the different entities are sharing their AI with the AI sharing platform, which serves as an intermediary body. So the World Economic Forum posed a related problem. It says, let's stop talking about data sharing. Many people today are talking about the need to share data, but realistically speaking, data sharing is not possible. It doesn't make sense in terms of the legal restrictions, in terms of the business point of view. So the World Economic Forum said, let's stop talking about data sharing. Instead, we should start data collaboration, which basically is equivalent to AI sharing. For those of you who are not familiar with the concept, please have a look at this slide. There are 3 hospitals here with their own data, and the patients wouldn't want their data to leave the hospital. The director of the hospital wouldn't want that either. If we use AI sharing, because we cannot bring together all the data, we can have an AI model which is sent to each hospital, and the hospital each trains the AI using their own data, and the AI insights are combined together to create a single AI model. That is what we call federated machine learning. And mathematically speaking, we have the weighted average of the 3 AI models combined together. This means that each hospital can leave the network at any time, come back to the network at any time based on their interest. And President Park earlier talked about the free market economy talked by Adam Smith 200 years ago. Today, with AI in the context, the economic entities would also want to work for that objective, and AI sharing makes it possible. And Mr. Zarate mentioned this in his presentation. If you look at the Wall Street Journal article at the bottom, it talks about how 20 different countries decided to partner together for anti-money laundering, and they decided to collaborate in real time. But that was in 2020. Did that work? No, because the banks and the institutions around the world share the common goal of anti-money laundering, but they were not willing to share their data. I know that there are many participants from financial institutions today, including insurance companies and banks, but basically sharing data is not possible. Everybody knows this. So in August 18, 2020, the Wall Street Journal published this article about a partnership. And then in 2022, there's a follow-up article which talks about the MOU failing and falling through. So what happens is the United States and the UK decide to collaborate together for AI sharing for the purpose of anti-money laundering. And then in the autumn of last year, they opened a challenge, and many companies in the US and UK applied, and one of the contestants was DeepMind. So, and also Conciliant, headed by Mr. Zarate, is also involved in this challenge as far as I know. So, looking at AI sharing, it's a new and easy way of collaboration. Until now, you had to share data to collaborate. But now you don't need to share data. You don't need to infringe the customer privacy. It's an alternative way of collaboration. The two institutions should now just begin sharing their AI. And this leads to many benefits, and this would reinforce the trust, and this could lead to new services, new products. And then once the trust is strong enough, then they can share data. Because when you meet a stranger for the first time, you don't share your personal information, your smartphone. You first share maybe some of the personal information, you share some light information, and then you start to know each other better. So that's what happens. You don't need to start off by sharing the data. You can start by sharing AI. So it's the easiest way of collaboration. If you opt for AI sharing, you actually have access to more data, and you have less exposure of data, and you have better protection of privacy, and also performance can grow by about 30%. So you have 30% higher performance when you have AI sharing versus when you don't. Of course, when you have data sharing, you can have even higher performance, but the difference is very small. This means you can make better decisions, you have better efficiency, and also you can save the cost. As Mr. Zarate said earlier, sharing data with each other entails many problems, including communications problem, and also you need the storage capacity. But AI sharing, compared to data sharing, is much more lightweight. And therefore, you can complete your projects more quickly, you can gain insights more quickly. And you can also reduce the overhead for processing data. Therefore, AI sharing allows collaboration which has not been possible until now. Top journals, including Nature, are publishing more and more papers on federated machine learning. This shows the collaboration of 20 hospitals. If you look at the graph on the bottom, there's the green line, which indicates the global model with AI sharing. 20 different hospitals trained AI with their own information, and this was compared with AI sharing. You can see that AI sharing always yields better results. On the right, you see the result from the biggest hospitals, and these biggest hospitals also benefited from AI sharing. And then you see the results from smaller hospitals as well. The smaller hospitals gain even more benefits. So the big hospital can decide whether to leave or stay, depending on how beneficial it is. And the smaller hospitals would definitely have much to gain from federating with each other. In December, so that was just a month ago, it's a very recent article. This was published in the Korea media outlets as well. So this is a paper that was published on Nature. It talks about how AI sharing can bring about 30% of performance increase. And there is no need for data sharing anymore. That was empirically and scientifically proven now. So this is important not just for businesses, but also for governments. When you meet with public officials, the mayors, they don't want to share their data. When you meet central government officials and also officials from the central government agencies and regional agencies, do they share their data? No, they won't. Government institutions, national institutions, and local governments don't share information or data with each other. That is something that is only natural. And for example, would you want to share with someone everything in your smartphone? No, you wouldn't, because it signifies who you are. You don't want to share all of that with someone else. And you don't need to force someone to share everything about themselves. Instead of data sharing, we should go for AI sharing, which can actually bring a stronger consolidation across society. And you can basically have better interfunctional solidarity. At our institute, we are conducting much research on AI sharing. So we are doing research on combating terrorism financing using AI sharing. And earlier we heard from the UAE minister about how they are using AI sharing. So what I love about the UAE is that they don't use the word disabled people. They call them people with determination. And the UAE is trying to provide one-step personalization service for these people with determination using AI sharing and UCAI. Also, Busan is dubbed the city of AI, and Busan is trying to be the host of 2030 Expo. So until 2030, Busan will try to promote their AI that is more citizen-centric, more citizen-friendly. And a specific example of that is Busan Pay Delivery, which is a service for small business owners in Busan making use of UCAI. So we also have the head of Korea Franchise Association today. So the Korea Franchise Association and Military Mutual Aid Association are working together as members for the same cause of promoting UCAI. To look at some of our research results, we have a recommender system called Transform Rec. ChatGPT is really drawing the attention around the world, and the methodology for this is Transformer. So we actually began this in August in 2020, and GPT-3 was announced in June 2020. So when we began our research, we were able to use GPT-3 and the same transformer methodology in our own system. And the recommendation algorithm based on the transformer is what you see here on the slide. So ChatGPT is applied in text. We applied it in receipts. If you look at the receipt, what do you see? It's all natural language. It shows where you bought it from, what you bought, how many you bought, and how much you paid. And all of that information is basically the core data to any commercial transactions. But nobody would want to share this data. So what we can do is we leave the data where it is in the payers' wallets, and we leave the data in the small merchant system, and we can develop AI using the data. So when a customer buys a product or a service from a merchant, well, based on all the data, we can predict who will buy what from where, and we can provide this AI insight to the merchants. So this is basically target market algorithm provided by recommender solution. And because this is in natural language, sometimes we can have some recommendations that don't make sense. For example, today we have dishes like rosé. Let's say that there is a restaurant that does not have rosé spaghetti on the menu, but AI recommends the restaurant to sell rosé spaghetti. And so this could actually offer new ideas for the restaurant. So maybe the restaurant can introduce this dish on their menu. AI can lead to creativity and creative ideation, as Mr. Zarate said. So this could be an example of that. So with this, we can have demand forecasting, product bundling, cross-selling, and event promotion. If you use Ulsan payment delivery or Ulsan pedal, well, if there are any citizens from Ulsan here, from the very first landing page, you have AI recommending you what to order. If you go to Daum News or Naver News, you are exposed to recommended news articles. And the same thing can happen when you're ordering food. You can actually get AI recommended food, and this could be a great improvement to your life. And we did customer satisfaction survey with great reactions. This was possible thanks to the contribution of big tech platforms. During COVID, we wouldn't have been able to order out and live a convenient life without all the big tech platforms because it was difficult to go outside. Big tech platforms definitely made a great contribution. But SMEs lost their touch points with the customers. They lost their data because of all these big tech platforms. So the SMEs are going through many difficulties as a result. Therefore, for the SMEs, we need to share touch points with customers, services for customers, and even data sharing. And the platforms need to step up in providing these to SMEs. I would love to show you a demonstration of what we did, but in the interest of the time, I am only showing you some key points on the slides. These are the receipts, and this shows the engine that was trained to make recommendations. This is the list of the recommended foods. The customer chooses what they want, and you can actually get bundled recommendations as well. And based on the membership of the customer, you can get some discounts. And then it also provides you with cross-selling recommendations with other restaurants. ChatGPT, which is popular around the world, has input data of text. You have text input and text output. So we call this the language model because you have the language input and the language output. However, in our system, this language is replaced by the receipts. The data from our receipts become input in our engine, and then the output becomes prediction of the customer's next purchase. ChatGPT is highly performing today, and I'm very happy to see that because this methodology of transformer is working well. That's what it proves. This means that other related engines would also likely to succeed. So I would like to give an applause to Professor Schmidt-Huber for his great work, which became the foundation of this. So we can provide B2C services based on this technology. We can also provide B2B services based on this technology. And this is how we can help SMEs. We can have target marketing, and we can recommend the customers what to buy where. This also means that we can make recommendations for the SMEs to approach particular customers and market particular products. So we have sort of like a duality, which helps both sides. It's January 30th today, and SMEs would wonder what kind of customer events they should have on that day. And we can also recommend appropriate event promotions for particular days and particular dates. It's very difficult to achieve this in our AI, but our engine can make a contribution here. And a lot of SMEs also want a good demand forecasting. They want to know how much they're going to sell today, tomorrow, how much inventory they should have, how much ingredients they should purchase. And AI could help demand forecasting based on the results of AI recommendation. And also we have product brainstorming, which is what I mentioned earlier. Let's say that there is a restaurant. Well, let's say nobody was selling rosé chicken, but then AI one day started to recommend rosé chicken, and that could actually be helpful for brainstorming other new products as well. Until now, a lot of the platform companies had to take data from SMEs to help them, but now you don't need to take their data. You are only integrating them using AI sharing. And currently, a lot of these exclusive platforms are not giving customer touch points to the enterprises, but the sharing platforms are different because the SMEs can now directly interact and contact the customers. BBQ, 7-Eleven, Ulsan are some of the partners we are working closely with. And next is something that has not been turned into reality yet, but it is something that we're researching. Earlier, I criticized Kakao Taxi a little bit, saying that the algorithm prevents the customers or the users to achieve their objective. So as an alternative, we have Digital Me service using MPER model, which stands for aim, measure, predict, evaluate, and recommend. Digital Me service is basically something that manages the individual's states. For example, you shouldn't do any exercises that are kind of too much, like bungee jumping. So for example, AI could recommend you to do certain exercises that could prolong your life. It could also make recommendations about beauty, memory, finance, etc. So it could be beauty, health, memory, finance, mental health, and so on. Simply put, if someone says that you can have the management service across all of these areas, but you have to give all of your data, would you do that? No. You want to keep your data. You want the data to stay with you while receiving the management service. There's a lot of research related to this Digital Me service, and I cannot cover all of them in the interest of the time, but basically we want the user to set his or her own objective, and the technology measures the person's state, predicts the person's next state, and evaluates whether the next state is desirable or not, and recommends a course of action. There is a company called Reed, which is an edutech company in Korea. And Reed is actually one of the top, well, it's really top one edutech company in the world. Reed actually publicized data set called Edu Center. And there was something very interesting in Reed's algorithm. So on Reed, you're solving these math questions, math problems, and you end up finding other people who have similar difficulties with you. So do you want to be recommended questions that this other person got right or this other person got wrong? Well, if you said you want to look at the problems that the other person got right, then you are a very good person, I think. But Reed would recommend you problems that this other person got wrong. So basically, Reed is a very strict teacher. You are basically getting problems that a similar student got wrong, which means that you're also likely to get it wrong. If there are many different problems that the other person got wrong, then what should you get out of this long list of problems? Our research found that out of these other problems, you should be recommended the question that you are most likely to get right in order for you to be motivated, but at the same time, learn and improve your academic performance. This applies not only to your math skills, it could apply to any Digital Me algorithms. So this is actually something confidential that I disclosed to you today. And this could also work with healthcare data. So we are doing research with healthcare data. Let me show you a short mock-up. So on Digital Me service, you can basically improve your eye wrinkles, your diabetes, blood pressure, and so on. You have more and more smart devices that monitor these health conditions, and a platform for managing these health conditions should be user-centric. Let's say you take a picture of yourself. If you look at the left, it shows here's what you look like in 20 years if you don't take good care of your skin. But if you take better care of your skin, then you're going to look like the picture in the center. So it recommends you different actions, and it links you to different services for skincare. This could apply to hair loss, obesity, blood glucose, skin health, and so on. So it could apply to health, beauty, finance, and many other areas in your life. We will have more and more Digital Me platforms to manage all of these different areas in your life. And you wouldn't want to give up your data for all of these services. You would want to keep your data with you, and that will lead to these new business models, again, using AI sharing. So each user will be using their own smartphone, keeping their data in their own personal cloud, but using AI sharing, they can get various services. And this is not something that we can achieve on our own. And that is why UCAI AI Forum is very important to understand what other companies are working toward this end, how we can collaborate, and we are actually trying to create an ecosystem. And you see a lot of different companies here that we're looking forward to collaborate in UCAI ecosystem. And once UCAI Growth Fund comes around, we can actually have more investment and we can actually have better funding for ecosystem creation. So that's what we're looking forward to in the future. So if you think about cars, computers, media outlets, they were the exclusive properties of the minority. So if you look back in history, cars were actually something that only rich people could own. But with Ford, Model T came around, which democratized cars. The same thing happened with computers. Steve Jobs or Bill Gates brought about the era of personal computers, smartphones. As for media, in the past, we were living in the era of mass media. Now we're living in the era of social media, personal media. I think the same will happen with AI. So Professor Schmidt-Huber proposed his vision today, and I think my vision is very closely aligned with his. So in AI, I think we should also have division of labor. Adam Smith said that if you make a pin on your own at home, you will only have 20 pins per day. But if you have 10 people or 20 people working together, you can actually create 4,800 pins in the same duration of time. So during the first Industrial Revolution, we started to see materials moving along the railroad. And the second Industrial Revolution showed electricity. And then the third revolution showed data moving along the internet. And the fourth industrial revolution would be AI sharing, AI moving things, moving products and services. I'm sorry I went over time, but this is my last slide. So now we will have an era where an individual would be owning AI. What would be the foundation of that new era? Well, the individual owning the data, the individual creating AI using their own data. If you don't have a lot of data, then your AI will not have high performance. That is why you need AI sharing to amplify the performance. And that, I think, will how AI will develop. This was my own personal point of view. But also small merchants, SMEs, and all social entities would be moving toward this paradigm. And we talk a lot about the need for exchanging data. What would the data market look like going forward? Let's say that someone gets your data and then makes money. Then you would be very angry at that. Let's say that Alaska, well, for example, Alaska was acquired by the US, and that's a valuable asset for the US now. So if your data is falls in the hands of someone else and that person makes a lot of money out of that, then you would not be very happy with that. So what should happen is you, instead of selling your data, you would only be granting access to your data. That would be the future of data exchange market, not selling your data, but rather granting access to your data. So I hope that my presentation helps your understanding of UCAI. Thank you for your attention.